I press my thumb against the rusted padlock, and it flakes like old snow. The metal is warm from the afternoon sun, and the prairie wind keeps worrying at my coat, combing dry grass into tides that hiss and bow. 30 years I stayed away. 30 years of driving past this exit on the highway and keeping my eyes straight ahead, knuckles white on the wheel, pretending distance is the same thing as healing. The smell out here is the same as it was the last time I stood at this gate. Hot earth, sun-fat sage, a thread of iron from the chain. It's the sort of smell that lives in your bones even when you think you've cleared every room. Just open it, I say, as if my body needs orders now. I expect resistance. I expect the lock to seize and the chain to bite and the gate to groan like a complaint. It doesn't. The shank slides free. The chain drops with an easy clatter. The gate swings as if someone oiled the hinges this morning. That small betrayal knocks the breath out of me. Abandoned things are supposed to be stubborn. This gate is not. The graded road beyond is new gravel, a pale ribbon laid neat between two lines of trimmed grass. No ruts, no weeds braiding the middle, no evidence of the years I threw at forgetting. Fresh tire tracks roll forward in a calm, unbroken set of ovals, as reassuring as a heartbeat. I kiss the key, pocket it, and drive through before courage can thin. Every fence post on the lane has been reset. The wire is tight, humming a faint music the wind can't resist. Far off, where I remember the old windmill leaning like a drunk, a different tower turns, quiet and efficient, its new blades a clean, sun-licked silver. I told myself to expect collapse. I rehearsed rot and sag and the soft heartbreak of things losing their shape. Instead, order unfolds, one fact after another, like a string pulled from the dark. I pass the cottonwoods in the corner where the path breaks toward the lake. I don't look. Out of nowhere, my mind throws up an image so fast I nearly break. A bright blue life ring hanging from the old dock like a mouth saying, "Oh," and the water below it not black the way it is in nightmares, but summer green, rippled with the push of small hands. I shove the picture away. Not yet. Not there. The house rises at the end of the lane, shouldered by the barn and the old machine shed. Except the machine shed is not a shed anymore. It's squared up, painted, windows in and curtains shifting like someone just passed by. The barn wears new siding. Between them, a string of cabins stands like a handful of teeth set in a jaw. Smoke curls from a metal chimney. Someone laughs. Children streak low along the fence, hair sunshot, legs reckless. A boy in a yellow shirt reaches the corner post and slaps it like he's tagged home. A woman calls something I can't hear, and he angles back, grinning. My hands have gone cold. It occurs to me I am not arriving at a ruin. I'm arriving at a place that is already in motion, mid-sentence. It occurs to me I might be the ghost. I park near the porch. The porch boards are new, tight-grained and honeyed, but when my boots meet them, they still echo in the same hollow note they always did. I'm grateful for that small mercy. My finger finds the nick on the rail Nathan made with a post-hole digger the day he swore at the sky and then laughed at himself for being dramatic. 6 months since he died, and muscle memory still lifts my head to look for him in a doorway. The absence is a shape that stands on its own. The screen door opens before I can knock. A woman steps out, neither hurried nor casual. She has the composure of someone who has learned not to spook strangers. Lines at the corners of her eyes, a braid coiled at the nape of her neck, pressed shirt rolled to the forearms. She takes me in, not missing the keys in my fist, the ring indent in my palm, the way I'm standing an inch behind my own feet. "Clara," she says. My name lands with a softness that startles me. "Welcome home." I stare at her mouth shaping the word home as if it belongs to both of us. "We've never met," I hear myself say. The wind pulls at my hair and at the hem of her shirt and at the gap between us, and it seems rude not to name the obvious. "No," she agrees, and she does not move closer. "I'm Evelyn Marlowe. We've kept the place." A small pause. "We hoped you'd come." We, the word is a door itself. Behind it are the children streaking along the fence and the smoke from the chimney and the neat gravel and the windmill that mines its work. Behind it a hum I can feel in the boards. My heart has to relearn how to count. "How did you know it was me?" I ask. It's half a joke and half a defense, and the other half something I don't yet have words for. She tilts her head toward my car, then back to my face, her smile a private, almost shy thing. Nathan told us exactly how you'd look when you finally turned in. She studies me a heartbeat longer, as if confirming something tender. And your walk. It's in the way you set your shoulders before you choose to forgive something. The porch and the sky and the whole afternoon sway. I close my hand tighter on the keys until the teeth bite. He told you. For years, she says. Once a month, always on a Saturday. He brought lists and news and a dozen contradictions. My mouth forms words, but they don't line up. He came here, I repeat, flat, as if the grammar itself is suspicious. For years. Evelyn nods once. She does not layer sympathy over the truth. She offers the truth by itself. 30. My mind wants 1,000 detours. It takes the shortest one and strikes at her instead. This ranch was abandoned, I say. I pivot, gesturing at the buildings, the cabins, the children, at the impossible neatness of everything. I left it. We left it. The screen door behind her whispers, then clicks. A figure edges into the doorway, then onto the porch, hands folded, eyes bright with a patient kind of politeness. He wears a hat too big for him. Sun-bleached canvas, a leather band darkened by years of sweat. The brim dips and he slots his fingers under it to shore it up, careful with the old thing. The hat tilts, and I see Nathan at once, the way he wore it crooked when he wanted to make me laugh, the way it always shadowed his eyes at midday like he was thinking private thoughts. Hi, the young man says. His voice is careful too, each word carried like something he's responsible for. I'm Noah Briggs. He clears his throat and stands straighter, as if remembering a script. I've been waiting. The kindness in his posture undoes me. Heat stings behind my eyes. I nod because my throat is unreliable and because he seems to need the acknowledgement. He looks at Evelyn. She rests a hand on the door frame like she is steadying the house. Noah, she says, the way you talk to someone who has earned all the dignity in his name. Would you get the picture? And the blue glasses? From the good shelf, he brightens. The good shelf, he repeats exactly and pivots with care. The hat lists to port. He lifts both hands to save it and laughs, and the laugh is a bell rung low in my chest. The screen door sighs as he goes in. Evelyn waits until the sound of his steps evens down the hall. It was his, she says, nodding at the absent hat. Nathan's fishing hat. Noah likes to say it helps him think like a captain. She turns her face back to me, studying the way the words land. He took very good care of it. I mean to be composed. Instead, I am a stack of barely balanced things. Anger edges in first because it is a simpler shape to hold. You're telling me, I say, and the you holds more than the one woman on the porch, that he was here. That the man who kissed me goodbye before his conferences, who called from hotel lobbies and airport gates and pretended he was eating alone when I could hear the clink of someone else's glass, was here. That for 3 decades he drove to this place we swore we could not stand and put his hands on its bones. Evelyn absorbs my words like they are weather. He was here, she says. He worked. He fixed what needed fixing. He brought people who needed a quiet place and a job and a second chance. He made a plan, and then another when the first broke. And he talked about you. Every time. Why? The question leaves me raw. Why would he do that? Why would he build a life here after what happened? The porch boards groan and settle. Far off, a horse tosses its head and the bridle rings. 2 children blow past the end of the yard, a flash of blue and red and long summer shouts. The smell of cut hay folds into the afternoon. Evelyn's gaze goes over my shoulder and then returns, like she is checking that all the parts of the day are staying in their lanes. Because what happened, she says, each word a plank laid with care, was a wound that needed a use, not a shrine. Because when a thing takes, you make it give. She lifts one shoulder, almost a shrug, because love is stubborn. I sway again, not from the wind, but from something inside pivoting hard. If I had come sooner, I think, if I had known. If I had let the gate swing easily under my hand than as it did today. Noah returns with the pitcher clutched in both palms, the blue glasses nested dangerously in his elbow like a bouquet. He sets everything down on the small table by the door, aligns the rims without banging them, and then tips water with the careful ceremony of a communion. For you, he says, offering me the first glass. It's very cold. We keep the blue ones for first days. For first days. My fingers are steady enough to take it. The condensation slicks my skin, and a bead slides under the line of my wrist like a tear I can pretend belongs to the glass. "Thank you," I tell him. He ducks his head, pleased, and the hat tilts again. He catches it with a practiced hand, smiling at his own grace. There is so much I want to argue with. The windmill, the cabins, the way the porch is swept. There is so much that refuses to bend to my version of the past. I reach for the one sentence that feels like a stake. "This ranch was abandoned," I repeat softly now, but stubborn. I tilt my chin toward the road, the gate, the years I stacked up like cinder blocks between myself and this land. I left. Evelyn's face does not harden, and it does not pity me. It holds, the way good faces do when they are about to say something that could change the furniture of a room. She steps once to the side so I can see past her into the house. The entry is bright and tiled with late light. On the wall opposite the stairs, a whiteboard gleams, lines ruled, names written in colors. A small jacket hangs from a peg lower than any of mine ever were. Somewhere a kettle clicks itself off. Somewhere else a child's voice breaks, then steadies. Her voice is calm when she answers me, the tone of a person who has learned that truth travels better without sharp edges. "Clara," she says, and she waits until I meet her eyes. "This ranch has never been abandoned." The words strike deep enough to ring. I almost speak, almost tell her about the dock and the blue ring from the picture that snuck up on me. Almost confess that for years the water in my head was always winter dark. That it pulled at my ankles when I tried to sleep. I almost say Nathan's name like an accusation and then like a prayer. I almost ask where the path breaks to the lake and whether the life ring is real. Instead, some part of me unclenches. It does not forgive. It does not name anything resolved. It simply loosens, the way a hand lets go of a rope before it burns skin to the bone. "How long?" I whisper, because questions are easier than tears. Since Nathan. 6 months, Evelyn says. "This Saturday." Noah looks up sharply. "We take flowers on Tuesdays," he adds, as if I should know the schedule of grief. "Blue ones mostly. Sometimes white if the store is out." He lifts the brim with 2 fingers, solemn as a deacon. "We can go, if you want." I nod to him again, because the boy in the too big hat is an anchor, and because the image of blue against green water is back. Insistent, but somehow less cruel. I swallow. The water in my glass is exactly as cold as he promised. Evelyn glances at the sky, at the slant of light cutting the yard. "We can walk the place," she says. "You can see the cabins, the barn, the greenhouse. Meet who's here, or we can sit. There is time." Her hands stay open at her sides, empty. She is careful not to hurt me. I look past her shoulder one more time, as if the house might provide a map for the next few breaths. The staircase is where it always was. The smell of coffee threads the air. A child's drawing is tacked crookedly beside the doorway to the kitchen, a smear of blue and a round sun with too many rays. The word comes up out of me without asking permission. "Show me," I say. Something like relief flickers over her mouth. She steps back and I cross the threshold. Behind us, Noah lets the screen door ease shut so it doesn't slam. He holds the hat with one hand, palm flat against the crown as if he's blessing it. I take one more look at the porch rail, find the old nick with my thumb, and think of the way I once believed time would simply eat the past and leave nothing but clean bone. The hum of the place gathers around me. The house seems to breathe. Evelyn's voice, from just ahead, is soft and sure. "We kept it ready," she says. "The office is in the front room now. We'll start there." I let the air of the house fill my lungs. I let the sound of a child laughing from the backyard cross the hall and find me. I let the smell of coffee and clean floors and cut hay arrange themselves into the shape of a present tense. Evelyn looks back at me eye to eye, as if confirming again that I am real and arrivable. "You should know something before we do anything else," she says. I brace without meaning to. "What?" I ask, but it is not a challenge anymore. It is simply need. Her answer is the quiet reset of the whole map. The sentence that clicks all the tumblers in a lock I thought I'd thrown away decades ago. "Not for a single day since you left." The entry smells like coffee and sun-warmed pine. But underneath it is the old scent of lemon oil, my hands rubbed into this banister. The one nicked by a box corner the summer Grayson insisted on carrying his own books. The hallway is wider than memory and exactly the same size. My palms know where the nail holes are, even after fresh paint has convinced the eye to forget. The front room used to be the living room, sofa under the window. Quilt folded over the back, Nathan's boots lined like punctuation along the wall. Now it's an office with a pulse. A whiteboard fills the space where we once hung our wedding photo. Lines are ruled in tidy columns. Duties, appointments, supplies, rides. Names bloom in dry erase colors, a little chaotic, mostly beautiful. Someone has drawn a small sun in the corner. Under the board, a long table is set up like a station. There's a sign-in clipboard, a jar of pens, a basket of folded forms, all stenciled Winslow Ranch with a crooked stencil that makes me unreasonably tender. Evelyn steps in beside me without crowding. "We keep intake here now," she says, tone even, like she's telling me where the Forks live. "Doctor days are posted on Sundays. Laundry shares are assigned weekly. We rotate kitchen, night watch, and rides to Billings." I find my own face in the window for a second, a faint ghost layered over a reflection of the whiteboard and the hallway behind me. The old couch is gone, but I see it anyway, sun-bleached floral, threadbare at the arms, Landon asleep with a picture book over his nose. Memory overlays the present with stubborn fidelity. I can't help it. My mind keeps trying to set old furniture inside this new order, like a decorator with a grudge. A chalkboard leans on the credenza that used to hold the Christmas candles. It's covered in names and times, a neat 4-day sweep, dental check, PTSD group, ESL class, farrier on Thursday, AA in the barn, Diego swim at 4. Tacked above it, a weekly roster is taped in blue painter's tape. The paper corners curl slightly. Beneath a row of plastic bins is labeled in black marker. Snacks, fruit, nuts, diabetic. Little hands have raided the top of the fruit bin and left the sticker from an apple peeling off like a second moon. 47, Evelyn says, as if answering a question I haven't asked out loud. Her voice is calm, built to carry numbers without drama. That's our count as of this morning. The number hits with a physical weight. Who? I ask, and catch myself, because the word sounds too much like an audit, not enough like a welcome. She glances at the board, not to check herself, but out of habit. 18 veterans, she says. Some single, some with families. 9 women and their kids who left unsafe homes. Noah and Marjorie, 1 Afghan family, 5 total. She pauses just long enough for the count to settle. A few here for seasonal work who never left. My gaze drifts to a strip of photographs taped along the edge of the desk. A woman grinning with a new pair of glasses. 2 boys clutching a library card. Noah holding a cake with too many candles, his mouth open in mid-surprise. Between the frames, there's a crayon drawing tacked crookedly to the wall. Water fills the page in swaying bands of blue and green. At the edge, a square dock and a tiny orange ring like a halo. A child's hand has written in earnest letters across the top. Asher's water. The room tilts. I brace my hand on the desk and feel the smoothness of polyurethane under my fingers, a modern finish over old pine. The word Asher looks both foreign and true in a stranger's handwriting. The water in the drawing is the exact summer green from the picture that ambushed me by the gate. My breath stutters, then finds the shallow rhythm I used to keep when grief arrived uninvited. In, hold, out, don't drown. Evelyn sees where I'm looking. She doesn't rush in to explain, doesn't reach for me, doesn't fuss. Juniper drew that, she says, same even cadence, the gentleness tucked inside the plainness. Sometimes the kids call the lake that. It started on its own. We didn't correct them. A part of me wants to tear the page down and hold it to my chest. Another part wants to scold a room full of children for turning my son into a landmark. Instead, I stand and let the page be what it is, a small, bright map someone needed to make in order to understand their world. Noah edges into the doorway carrying a stack of folded pool towels, the hat riding his head like a loyal dog. Blue shelf? He asks, and when Evelyn nods, he smiles and disappears toward the mudroom off the kitchen, the careful rhythm of his footsteps counting out his purpose. We move down the hall. The staircase still climbs along the right like a steady thought. I touch the newel post and feel the notch I've been reaching for since I crossed the threshold. It's there, barely, softened by sanding, stubborn anyway. On the wall beside the stairs, more art, scribbles in marker, a surprisingly accurate horse, a list of spelling words clipped beneath a magnet shaped like a trout. A flyer reads, CPR class Saturday, hands-only refresher welcome, with a row of tiny hearts drawn across the bottom by someone who won't be told that whimsy is against the rules. In the kitchen, light comes in as if invited. The long table is scarred and scrubbed and ready for anything. Where my mixing bowls used to live are now plastic pitchers labeled water and juice and do not leave empty in a tidy hand. A corkboard near the pantry holds appointment cards. Doctor. Carver's hours, vaccine clinic next month, Spanish circle with Serena written in bubble letters by a child who decided to help. Beside the sink, a jar holds clothespins with names burned into them, and a string stretches across the window frame with dish towels clipped up to dry like flags. We don't post last names on public boards, Evelyn says, and it takes me a second to understand she is offering shape, not scolding. But we track the rest. Schedules keep the peace. Bread does too. She opens the bread box without thinking, and then closes it again, the corner of her mouth bending at herself. Marjorie says I'm not allowed to show guests the bread. It's her reveal. Reveal? The word makes me smile in spite of myself. It tastes like a magic trick in a place that prefers hammers to hats pulled from nothing. She likes a flourish, Evelyn admits. A slightest clatter behind me, and Noah appears at the threshold with an armful of labeled bins, sunscreen, bug spray, bandages, with a smaller one on top that reads extra goggles. He pauses with the concentration of a tightrope walker. Where? He asks. Bench by the back door, Evelyn says. He nods. Back door, he repeats, and goes, the hat sliding, his hand saving it like a practiced dance step. From the kitchen, I can see out to the yard. The greenhouse glints beyond the back fence, ribs arching against the sky. Two kids play a game that involves a lot of hopping and an argument about the rules, each negotiation starting loud and ending with a handshake because someone taught them how. The clock over the stove is one I don't recognize, but it ticks, within the same four walls where we burned pancakes and counted down the minutes until we could call the pediatrician without feeling like we were bothering him. A small noise brings my attention down. At the end of the table, a little girl with copper hair is coloring quietly, her tongue caught at the corner of her mouth. She doesn't look up, simply slides a crayon deeper into the lake on her page, as if the water needs one more layer to be true. There's a bandage on her knee with a sticker of a horse over it. A second sheet sits beside her, waiting, already titled in careful capitals. Asher's Water, Round. I want to give her a better word. Pond, lake, the precise term for the shape my life has avoided. The correction dies before it reaches my mouth. Round is right, in the way children are always right when adults are busy polishing. How many? I ask, eyes still on the paper but voice steadying. Sleep here? In the house? 15 beds in the main, Evelyn says. Cabins take the rest. We keep families together as much as possible. Night watch keeps the phone. Marjorie keeps the gossip, which is also logistics when she's right. She glances at the clock. Diego's swim is at 4. If you want quiet, 3 o'clock is the best time to sit by the greenhouse. If you want noise, 5 to 6 is chaos with morals. The numbers thread through me like stitches pulled with an even hand. I picture the bedrooms upstairs, ours at the front, Grayson's across the hall, the room where Harper painted her ceiling, with glow-in-the-dark stars until Nathan laughed and then did it with her properly so it didn't look like mildew. I imagine new names on the doors, taped in careful letters. I imagine bunks, spare blankets folded square, a nightlight someone bought on purpose for soft waking. We pause at the base of the stairs. I put my palm flat to the wall and feel the faint vibration I used to notice when the dryer was running, except now it's a different hum, the collective sound of a place with its own metabolism. All at once, I need the ledger. I need the facts lined up and explained in triplicate, not because they'll save me, but because I don't want to be saved by accident. Evelyn, I say, and my voice is the one I used when the pediatrician finally answered. The one I used when Nathan said a thing I couldn't live with. I want the whole of it. Where everyone came from, how they were chosen, who pays for what, who sleeps where, why the whiteboard, why the bins, who teaches, why the rules, how the decisions get made. I swallow, the old banister under my fingers like a railing on a boat. And I want to know why no one told me any of this while my husband was alive. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't defend. You'll get every answer I have, she says. And some I don't, from people who do. She nods toward the office again. There are papers, there are emails, there are recordings, there are journals you should see when you're ready. She holds my gaze, but not my grief. We let truth be slow sometimes. Not with you. Not today. Noah's hat appears around the corner like a moon. 4 o'clock, he reports, checking the clock as if he personally set the planet to obey it. Diego is ready. He hesitates, then adds, he said the water is warm enough for toes. I hear the word toes, and the floor drops 2 inches, then steadies. I think of the drawing, of the orange ring, of the title written in a child's uncompromising hand. The kitchen window breathes light into the room. The whiteboard in the office holds its neat columns like a spine. Someone laughs outside as if the air has just told them a joke. My denial has been my last good coat for so long. I feel it loosen at the shoulders. I set my hand on the back of a chair to make standing a decision instead of a flinch. The chair leg ticks against the tile, a small declarative sound. Show me, I say. The path to the lake begins as it always did, thin gravel pressed into packed dirt, but the rest of it feels rewritten in another hand. My breath drags against my ribs, so I count. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. The rhythm steadies. Me as the wind threads through the cottonwoods, whispering a version of the past I'm not sure I trust. Benches line the path now. Cedar, varnished, each carved with initials that don't belong to me. Wildflowers fill the edges. Purple coneflower, yarrow, the kind Nathan used to call nature's first aid kit. The closer we get, the more the air changes. Wetter, cooler, cleaner. The smell of lake water has always carried something metallic to me, but today it's faintly sweet, like sunlight caught in memory. Then I see it, the surface spread wide and calm, smaller than in my nightmares. I had remembered it as an ocean. It is only a lake. The dock stretches forward, rebuilt in clean planks. Ropes mark off the swimming area, yellow buoys bobbing in polite rows. A wooden boat floats just beyond the rope, a red cross painted on its hull. On the far end of the dock, a man in a wetsuit calls out something sharp and rhythmic. Ready, set, kick. Children's laughter splits the air. The sound collides with my chest like a tide that doesn't know whether to drown or heal. I stop walking because the world is suddenly too symmetrical. Where once there was absence, now there is joy. Evelyn stands beside me, quiet. She gives me time to breathe. When I finally move closer, I see the first plaque set in stone near the dock's entrance. The lettering is simple, hand-cut, gold against black, Asher Nathan Winslow 1975, 1985. For every life saved here, your name is spoken. My knees nearly buckle, but I stay upright. Not out of pride, out of something smaller and more stubborn. A child's giggle ripples across the water, and the sound keeps me breathing. Next to the first, a newer plaque glints in the sun. 47 children have learned to swim here. None lost. The number hums in my chest. 47, exactly Evelyn's count of residents. A symmetry that feels like someone's quiet apology to the universe. Diego runs the program, she says. Former athlete, lost his leg in Afghanistan. Says water is the one place where everyone feels even. She gestures toward the dock. He's waist deep in the lake, broad-shouldered, calling directions to the group. A spotter stands on deck with a whistle looped around her wrist. Another person in the boat holds a first aid kit. Their movements are choreographed. No panic, no hurry. Every whistle means something. Every ripple is accounted for. 3 positions always filled, Evelyn murmurs. Instructor in water, spotter on deck, responder in boat. Every adult here is CPR certified. Twice yearly refreshers. I nod, though my throat is thick. The children line up for their turn, the sunlight painting their shoulders gold. A boy in bright blue goggles dips under, comes up sputtering and laughing. Another girl claps for him, her palms leaving wet prints on her knees. Diego steadies the boy with a grin and points him back to the ladder. The dock creaks behind me. Noah appears, arms full of blue irises. He sets them down gently near the plaque. Tuesday flowers, he says, with quiet pride. We bring them every week. Blue for calm. He adjusts one that's leaning and gives me a look that feels like permission to cry. A smaller child nearby, Juniper, the copper-haired girl from the kitchen, skips up to me, clutching a sketchbook. You're Asher's mom, she says, not asking. We have lessons because of him. It's his water. I kneel without planning to. It's beautiful, I manage. She grins, missing a tooth. My brother was scared of the lake. Then Diego said, It's Asher's water. It keeps you safe. Now he's not scared. She flips open her book to show me the drawing. The same dock, same orange ring, but this one labeled with her small, proud script, Lesson 47. My breath wavers. 47, I repeat, tracing the number on the page with my eyes. The wind answers softly, lifting the page's corner. Evelyn waits behind me, still not moving, her patience a kind of shelter. After a while she says, One of them was your grandson. The words hit with a strange gentleness. Silas? I ask, already knowing. He took lessons last summer, Evelyn replies. 6 Saturdays. Anonymous scholarship. But we knew. Her tone stays even, factual, never pitying. He still comes sometimes when he visits Harper. Helps the little ones out of their depth. My hands press against my knees until they sting. The air tastes of lake water and cut grass. For a heartbeat, everything folds. The memorial, the laughter. Nathan's quiet handwriting I've seen on every labeled bin. The soft certainty that he stood here, watching, planning. Building, while I spent decades driving past the exit. I walk to the dock. The wood warms beneath my shoes. Diego glances over, gives me a nod. Not of greeting, but acknowledgement. I return it. A child leaps from the ladder, arms pinwheeling, splash perfect, laughter shaking the air. It isn't peace, not yet, but it's something that knows the shape of it. Noah picks a stray flower petal off the plaque and places it in my palm. For next time, he says. I close my hand around it. Next time, I echo, though my voice trembles. The horizon burns gold in the late sun. I look at the water, smaller than in nightmares, clearer than I remembered, and whisper to the empty air between waves, I'll stay. I need to see. The barn used to smell like hay and oil, and men trying not to swear at broken balers. Tonight it smells like roasted chicken, garlic, clean wood, and a dozen small conversations warming the rafters. Twinkle lights loop between beams. Mason jars glow like small moons. Long tables run the center aisle where tractors once slept, dressed with mismatched plates and the kind of flatware you only get when a place has gathered from everywhere. Someone set sprigs of rosemary in jelly jars. The whole room hums. Marjorie stands at the head, apron on, gray hair pinned up, cheeks flushed with kitchen heat. Next to her, Noah holds a stack of napkins like they're linens at a hotel. Posture perfect, hat more ceremonial than useful. Dr. Elias Carver leans on a cane a few seats down. Suit jacket over a check shirt, eyes bright behind old man bushy brows. Serena Cole waves a spatula like a conductor's baton as she shepherds 2 boys past the dessert table. At the end, Maeve Hollis untangles Juniper's ribbon from a chair back with a mother's deft patience. 5 minutes, Marjorie calls, and the room reweaves, chairs drag, laughter pinballs. A violin clears its throat from somewhere near the door, and wisely changes its mind. Grayson arrives last, jaw set, tie a little too tight, sleeves rolled with surgical precision. He takes a seat across from me and keeps his hands on the table, palms flat. Harper slides in beside me, legal pad tucked under her arm as if she might cross-examine the salad. Landon folds down like a long colt at my other side, breath loosening as he watches a chestnut gelding nod through the open barn window at our noise. Marjorie rings a small bell she's surely smuggled out from some church kitchen. "Gratitudes," she says, easy, not pious. 2 lines apiece. Kitchen staff first so they don't faint. A woman in a bandana grins, wiping her hands. Grateful for onions that did not fight me. And for the garden that keeps forgiving my scissors. Chuckles. The man to her left lifts a thumb. Grateful for steady work and fewer nightmares this week. For coffee that does what it promised on the label. Serena raises her spatula. Grateful for 3 new readers in the schoolroom. And for chalk that actually writes white. Noah squares his shoulders. Grateful for blue glasses on the good shelf. And for hatbands that stay tight on windy days. Marjorie tips her head to Elias. He rises slowly, courtesy stitched to bone. Grateful for letters drafted and signatures that mean something when the ink dries. And for whoever fixed that cursed hinge on the east gate, because my hip thanks you. Soft laughter again. My turn comes before I'm ready. The room waits without pressure. Grateful for the smell of roasted garlic instead of diesel, I say. And for the word home being willing to try again. Evelyn's mouth ticks, the tiniest yes. Across the way, Grayson doesn't touch his water glass. Grateful for Mom being here, he says, voice clean and clipped. And for transparency, which we will need a lot more of. Harper adds, grateful for a whiteboard that actually tracks decision-making. And for the chance to read every document before anyone asks for signatures. Landon smiles crookedly, grateful for horses that listen. And for quiet work that makes your hands calm. Elias clears his throat, catching the current. For any who don't know me, he says when the bell has moved on, I'm Elias Carver. I served in Vietnam, then learned to make courts do what they said they would. I'm counsel to the Winslow Ranch Trust. The trust is lawful, funded, and audited. No one is doing anything in the dark here. He looks at Grayson, not unkind. You'll see every page, son. From 2 tables down, a man raises a hand, accent rounding his vowels. I am Farid, he says, interpreter. Tonight I am grateful for a place where my children sleep, and for the day Diego's boat made my daughter laugh again. Diego, already at the far end with a plate like a small continent, lifts his fork. Grateful for no cramps in the left calf that isn't there, and for kids who now dunk my hat with pride. Juniper bounces and then remembers to sit. Her hand shoots up anyway. Grateful for new crayons, the sharp kind, and for Asher's water. The room breathes once together. Marjorie lets the bell rest on the table and claps her hands. Eat before I cry into the gravy, she orders. Chairs scrape. Plates fill. Conversation settles into a pattern like rain on a roof, overlapping, generous, a little loud. Marjorie works the room with a pitcher, topping off and patting shoulders, the benevolent queen of everything that feeds. She pauses at our table and sets a breadbasket between Grayson and me with theatrical restraint. The reveal, she whispers to me, eyes sparkling. Rosemary rolls. Landon makes a satisfied noise I haven't heard since he was 12. Harper takes one and peels it the way she used to unwrap gifts, patient and precise. Grayson stares at his plate like it was subpoenaed. Elias, Harper says once we've eaten a few bites, voice professional, chin lifted. Population total is 47. Who authorizes intake, who signs disbursements, and how are conflicts handled? Intake by committee, Elias answers. Evelyn, Serena, Diego, and 1 resident representative, currently Marjorie. Disbursements require 2 signatures. Conflicts get a 3-person panel. No one is judge in their own case. And the sale funds? Grayson cuts in, fast, as if to pin the answer before it can wriggle. 3 million. How much left? Where it sits. Trust principle intact, Elias says. Accrued interest pays programs. Quarterly reports. You'll have them. Grayson exhales through his nose. Funny how none of this reached Denver. It should have, I say, quietly. He glances at me, startled by my agreement. But we're here now. At the far table, Farid's wife passes a plate of oranges down to Serena's students. The smallest boy builds a sun with wedges and presses his palms together when it's perfect. Diego shows him how to make the sun a boat instead, floating each slice from one plate to the next. The boy laughs so hard his shoulders shake. Juniper appears at my elbow like a sparrow with a mission. "I made you something," she announces, putting a card in my hand and rocking on her toes while I open it. The paper is thick, corners rounded. Inside, in green marker, block letters say, "We can be your helpers now." There are 7 stick figures holding a rope together. One has a hat with a big brim. My chest folds neatly along an old crease. I smooth the card with my thumb. "This is perfect," I tell her, because it is. Across from me, Grayson says, "Mom, this is all very charming, but charm doesn't sign checks." "Neither does scowling," Landon puts in, mild. "You can ask questions and eat a roll at the same time. It's a known skill." Grayson's mouth tightens, then betrays him by twitching. He picks up a roll and tears it exactly in half, as if fairness had to be demonstrated first. "Fine, Elias governance," he prompts. "Trustees, Nathan, myself, and 1 seat reserved for a Winslow adult," Elias says. His eyes meet mine. "It was meant for you, Clara. If you want it. The fork is cool in my hand." The barn lights shimmer a little, twinkle reflecting in glasses and pupils, and the polished backs of spoons. I fold the card, slide it into my pocket like a stone I mean to keep. Harper pushes her legal pad aside finally. "I'll need the original deed, sale agreement, and trust formation documents, and a list of everyone who contributed sweat equity, because labor is a form of capital." She glances at Evelyn. "I'm not here to fight what works. I'm here to make sure it keeps working." Evelyn nods, grateful without making a show of it. "Copies waiting in the office," she says. Noah circles back with the pitcher and a look of professional focus. "Refills?" he asks. "Blue glasses get water first." Grayson lifts his just enough for the rules to be obeyed. He watches Noah pour with a face that has learned not to underestimate small, careful tasks. When Noah finishes, Grayson says, not unkind, "Thank you." "You're welcome," Noah returns, perfect cadence, then leans toward him conspiratorially. "The rolls are better with honey," he advises. Marjorie says the bees did most of the work. Marjorie overhears from 3 tables away. "I said all of the work," she corrects, then grins. "I just did the showing off." The meal thins toward contentment. Plates show bones and butter and crumbs dragged into tiny dunes by the absent-minded. Voices drop to the warm register of people who will wash dishes together without needing assignments. The horse in the window snorts once, as if blessing or reviewing, and moves on. Grayson folds his napkin like a verdict and leans forward. "I'm not promising anything," he tells me, not quite quietly. "This is a lot. I'm not asking for promises," I say. "I'm asking for your eyes and your hands if you decide they belong here." He looks down at his palms as if they're witnesses. Then slowly he nods. Not agreement. Permission to keep sitting at the table. Elias taps his cane once, a gentle gavel. "Tomorrow morning, 9, he says. "We'll start with the paper bones of the place. Today is for proof of life." Juniper lingers long enough to see my card tucked away, then darts back to Maeve, copper hair catching the lights like new pennies. Farid raises his glass toward us in the old way that does not demand we copy him. Serena starts a song under her breath, and 3 voices catch it, then 5. Then the room hums a tune that knows how to make strangers into neighbors. When the bell rings again for pie and coffee, Marjorie rests the clapper in her palm and looks around the barn as if counting heads is a prayer. Her gaze lands on Noah, then on me, then takes in the rafters like an old friend. "Family," she says. And the room quiets without being told, the most complicated love story. The morning comes in on the color of a bruise healing. Cool air through the screen, the slow thrum of the pump at the well, a hawk writing its name over the east pasture. I step onto the porch with a mug that's more for warmth than coffee, and watch the horizon trade blue for gold, one thin breath at a time. Beauty follows darkness. It does. Not as a promise, but as a habit the world can't quite break. Marjorie is already there on the top step. Cardigan over her dress, hands loose in her lap the way women hold their strength when they don't want to scare it off. She scoots her knee so I can sit. "Didn't sleep?" she asks, which is kind. She doesn't pretend she doesn't know. "Some." I hold the mug between my palms. "Enough to be honest." She nods like we've agreed on the weather. Nathan had 2 pantries, she says, a plain sentence lowered onto the morning like a plank. One for food, one for feelings. He stocked the first neatly labeled every jar. The second he locked and called it later. He meant to open it. Some of it he did. Some he stored out here because this place could carry weight he didn't want on your kitchen table. I breathed through that. The way you breathe through a tight stitch in your side so you don't have to stop running. Compartmentalizing, I say. Survival, she returns. Then habit. She flicks her eyes at the rim of sun clearing the low ridge. He loved you clean and fierce. He loved this place stubborn. The loving wasn't the mistake. The screen nudges and rests back. Grayson stands in the doorway, tie forgotten, hair damp from a too-quick wash, hand still on the latch, as if letting go is the part that takes effort. He steps out and sits on my other side, knees wide like he's bracing a boat. I'm tired, he says, without preamble and without apology. 30 years of being the strong one. Making sure the mortgage got paid, the tires got rotated, the doctor appointments got scheduled. Being the bad cop when you needed someone to tell you to eat. I thought Dad's secrets were affairs. Turned out they were this. He gestures toward the waking ranch with a hand that is part accusation, part surrender. I don't know what to do with a good secret that still feels like betrayal. I place my hand on his knuckles, not to fix anything, just to mark the location of the hurt. We'll do the math, I tell him. Then we'll do the living. The steps creak behind us. Evelyn sets a leather box on the porch table like an altarpiece. The leather is the dark of a storm spent, brass corners burnished by hands. A strap keeps it cinched. She doesn't say a word, only rests her palm on the lid once, the way you greet something alive and leaves us to it. I draw it toward me. The strap gives. Inside, packets tied by year with narrow cotton ribbon, envelopes addressed in Nathan's precise, handsome hand. 12 per year, 30 years. Some ink faded to tea, some still black and stubborn. Paper that has carried weight, moved across seasons, survived the humid war of summers. The smell is glue and time and a trace of cedar from someone's good idea long ago. I choose the topmost envelope from the first bundle. The year is the one that refused to end. The flap unsticks with the sigh of a long-held breath. I read aloud, because some words need air if they're going to finish becoming true. January. I don't have the right words yet. I keep trying the wrong ones to wear them out. The barn roof is the kind of problem I can solve with money and a ladder. I keep picking the ladder first because ladders don't cry when you climb them. February. Met a lawyer named Elias Carver, Vietnam. Eyes like he can still hear helicopters but chooses not to. He asked better questions than I brought answers. I asked him to draw the bones of a thing that could stand if I went down in a field. March. Bought bolts, not the cheap ones. The wind takes what you give it if you don't fasten your grief to something heavier. Replace the hinge on the east gate. It squeaked like a confession. April. A woman with 2 kids came by. Said she needed quiet work and a lock on the inside of the door. We planted beans and pretended that was an ordinary sentence, made up roof holds. Rain sounded like it was counting us. Put a ring on a nail at the dock. It is the color of a promise I should have made sooner. June. Wrote your name on the intake ledger under owner, then erased it because I didn't have permission. Wrote it again in my head and kept it there. July. The lake is smaller than it is in my dreams. That feels like mercy I didn't earn. I am trying to turn a wound into a use. If there is a God worth the title, he'll let me, August. If you ever come here again, you will hate me and forgive me in the same day. I am learning that both can be accurate. I stop not because the letter stops, but because the edges of my voice are starting to fray, and I promised myself I would read like a witness, not a saint. The sun is fully up now. The barn throws its long shadow like a careful hand across the yard. Grayson's shoulders have dropped an inch. Marjorie wipes her cheek with the back of her hand like it was just in the way of her work. The box waits, patient, full of a man's monthly surrender to the version of himself he couldn't tell us at the dinner table. I set the first letter down on my knee and feel the shape of an old map resolving under my thumb. Not a trail out, a trail in. He left us a road, I say, surprised at the certainty in my own voice. Not straight, but marked. Grayson stares at the envelopes as if memorizing the terrain. Then we see where it goes, he says, weary and decided. I slide the January letter back into its paper sleeve with a care I used to reserve for newborns and court orders. The ribbon sighs against the rest of the year. The leather box catches the sun and holds it, a roadmap to his heart. Not a shortcut, a way. We gather at the long table in the office where the whiteboard has learned all our names. Evelyn sets 4 envelopes down, as if she's dealing a hand none of us asked for, and all of us need. Heavy paper, our names written by Nathan in the hand that labeled every bin and still found time to curve the S in snacks like it was flirting. Invitations, Evelyn says. Not orders. She nods at mine first. The flap lifts with a papery hush. Inside, a letter on good bond, one corner creased like he reread it too many times before tucking it away. Clara, I have watched you teach a child to read by putting your finger on the page and your breath beside theirs. I have watched you hold silence like it was also a language. The ranch needs a keeper of its heart and its history. Title, historian and heartkeeper. Salary modest, housing in the East Room, a key to the archives that do not yet exist. Build them. Record the names, the dates, the systems, the laughter. Write the wall text by the memorial and the orientation for new arrivals. Lead the Tuesday flower ritual when Noah is unwell. I have placed an annual budget line for your work. You will hate the title and make it yours anyway. My throat tightens at the accuracy and the audacity of it. The letter includes a list of logistics with Nathan's infuriating thoroughness, a stipend for supplies, a note that Serena will trade an afternoon in the schoolroom for my morning with the archives, a schedule for oral histories Elias has already drafted releases for. I set the page down, palms warm. Grayson flips his envelope with one finger, skeptical. He opens it like a contract that might bite. Grayson, you built an empire out of spreadsheets and stubbornness. Bring the former and bring the latter in half doses. Title, Enterprise and Finance Partner. The trust will match revenue you generate from sustainable ranch enterprises up to a cap you will find insulting and then increase. Explore partnerships, a satellite office here for your firm, paid internships for residents, a training pipeline for veterans who want your kind of work. Stop trying to fix the entire West in a weekend. Start by walking the pasture with Elias and arguing about depreciation until you're both laughing. The keys to the shop are in the top drawer. N. He snorts, the sound unguarded, then presses his mouth flat so we can all pretend we didn't hear him, almost like the man who wrote it. Harper lifts hers, already braced and already softening. She reads, then hands it to me to read with her, as if the words will be stronger shared. Harper, you turn chaos into precedent. Title, Founding Council, Community Legal Clinic. Elias will mentor. 2 partners in Billings have agreed to secondment 6 hours a week for the first 6 months. Focus, family law, veterans benefits, housing, immigration referrals. Build a pro bono roster. Draft the intake forms, then throw them out and make better ones once you've met your first 5 clients here. There is an office in the south cabin with a door that shuts and a window that looks at the cottonwoods so you don't forget the sky. A stipend covers the first 6 months of your leave. She lets out a breath she's been holding since we walked in and covers it by rearranging the letterhead square with the table edge. 6 months, she says, to the paper, to the room, to herself. Landon doesn't pick his up right away. He rests his palm on the envelope like he's checking a horse's flank for heat. When he opens it, he smiles before the first line ends. Landon, you listen to animals until they decide to tell you the truth. Title, Equine Therapy Fellow. Serena and Diego will co-supervise. Start with 3 mornings a week. Learn the veterinary basics with Dr. Ames. Take Noah as your assistant on Tuesdays when the flowers are done. He will teach you how to be exactly on time. There's a scholarship fund for certification if you want it. The gelding with the white star favors his left. Ask him why, and he'll tell you if you wait. He looks up, certain the way a person is when a door he already walked through turns out to have been labeled with his name all along. I can do this, he says, simple as a clean line of fence. I want to. Grayson folds his letter and tucks it in his pocket as if it might jump. Matching funds, he says. Caps, governance, we're going to fight about all of it. Probably, I say. Overbred and not in court if we're lucky, he huffs. We'll see. Harper flips to the back of her letter. There's a postscript in Nathan's smaller script, the one he used when he was trying not to sound like he was asking for permission. P.S. If you hate it, say no. Say no and still come for dinner on Fridays. These are invitations, not mandates. Evelyn watches us without shepherding. There's time, she says. We make these choices with shoes on, not in the air. Something rustles at the door. Noah leans in, hat slightly askew, eyes alight with mission. Landon, he says, very official. The chestnut is making his serious face. He wants you. He pauses, then adds, Please. Landon glances at me. I nod toward the door, purpose before pondering. He's gone in a long stride, Noah matching him, the hat listing. The two of them already speaking hoarse in a language that sounds like patience and precise hands. I stack the 4 envelopes together, edges aligned, the way Nathan would have liked, and slide mine back out again, because some work begins the minute it's named. Choices, not mandates. Letters that feel like doors that don't lock behind you. I rest my palm on the whiteboard, where someone has drawn a tiny flower in the corner, and feel the place humming under my skin. Ready to be kept, ready to keep us. Day 1 morning. Light pours through the schoolhouse like honey through a sieve. Serena writes a sentence on the chalkboard, then erases the word afraid and rewrites it smaller to prove a point to a boy with a shaking pencil. Outside, Landon knots a lead rope with clean, square competence, palm flat on the chestnut's neck, voice steady. Breathe, he tells the horse, and I watch both of them obey. Afternoon. In the workshop, Elias shows Grayson the ledger like a carpenter showing a blueprint. Revenue lives or dies at the edges, he says. Grayson pushes his sleeves higher, taps a column, and grudging curiosity edges out his scowl. PM, the lake. Whistle, ripple, laughter. Juniper swims 5 strokes without clutching the ladder, then slaps the dock, triumphant. Diego's grin is a small lighthouse. I stand where the sun frets the water into coins and learn the timing of the whistles by heart. Day 2 morning. The clinic cabin smells like printer ink and lemon cleaner. Harper interviews a woman about custody. Her questions are clean, not cruel. Notes precise in the margins. Follow up on visitation. Interpreter needed. She stays after to fix the wording on the intake form, cutting 3 sentences down to 1 that actually says what it means. Midday. In the stables, Landon demonstrates a grooming sequence to Noah. Curry, dandy, body brush. Long strokes with the hair, soft brush for the face. Noah repeats it back like liturgy. The chestnut lowers his head and leans into the brush like a weary man into a kind hand. PM. Wind picks up, flecking the water. A small boy freezes on the 3rd rung of the ladder. I kneel, eye level, and loan him my breath. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. He nods, climbs 1 rung higher, and then jumps, surface shattering into glory. Day 3 morning. In the greenhouse, words bead on the air, pH, perlite, transplant shock. I hold a tray while Serena lifts a seedling whose roots have laced the soil like a shy hand. Move it before it strangles itself, she says. Innocence and instruction in one breath. Afternoon. Grayson stalks the pasture with Elias, arguing depreciation versus maintenance like 2 men trying to keep a porch from sagging. At the gate, Grayson stops and laughs once, short and surprised, when the hinge doesn't squeal. Fine, he says to no one. Fine. PM. Juniper floats on her back for the count of 10. Look, I made a sky, she declares. The spotter's whistle chirps approval. I count with her. Every number a bead on an invisible rosary I didn't know I carried. Day 4 dawn. Tuesday. Noah meets me by the porch with blue irises and solemnity. We walk the path without speech. At the memorial, he arranges the stems with priestly care. For calm, he says. Marjorie joins us on the bench, her cardigan catching burrs without complaint. Grief is a good worker when you give it a job, she says, practical as twine. Late morning. Harper drafts an MOU with the partners in Billings. 6 months, she murmurs to her own hands. We'll make it count. She asks me to witness her signature. I do, and it feels like a hinge taking grease. On PM. Rain freckles the lake. Diego calls for shortened sets. The responder boat sits ready as a promise no one has to cash. Juniper joins the deep end group for the first time. Touch and go. A quick kiss on the far rope, return sure-footed. Day 5 morning. The schoolhouse smells like pencil shavings and damp wool. I record oral histories in the office, my voice steady into the mic as Fareed tells the story of a boarder, a bus station, and a hand that wouldn't let go. Say your name the way you want it kept, I ask each person, and they do, and the room feels larger when they finish. Afternoon. Landon teaches Noah a quick release knot, then checks it like a surgeon checks a suture. Not for pretty, he says, tugging, for safe. The rope snaps free, perfect. Noah beams. PM. I plant myself on the dock where the grain of wood runs like time and let the ritual take me. Whistle, kick, breathe. The water and I have reached a guarded truce. It doesn't pretend to forget. I don't pretend to forgive. We still meet. Day 6 morning. Grayson leaves early, Denver tight in his shoulders. At lunch, a text, back Sunday. Send me the audited statements. No hearts, no periods. The man is punctuation averse when he's thinking. Midday. Harper trains 2 volunteers on intake. No surprises, she tells them. Surprises are for birthdays. Elias looks over her forms and nods once, like a judge who finds the brief elegant. PM. Diego hands me a towel and says, if you ever want to put your feet in, I'll pretend not to see. I laugh, and for 2 whole minutes forget the taste of metal the lake used to have in my mouth. Day 7 morning. Sun catches in the dust motes of the riding ring. Landon leads a boy through a groundwork pattern, voice soft. Ask, wait, thank, he says. The boy mirrors him. The horse mirrors them both. Wood, light, breath. Afternoon. I read 2 more letters in Nathan's looping hand. He writes about bolts and beans, about laughter turning the barn into a cathedral, about the day he met a man with a hat too big and knew a new kind of joy. I copy dates, names, the weather on the day the east fence finally held. The archive starts to look like a spine. PM. Juniper swims the length of the rope and back, then climbs the ladder and bows to the lake with ferocious seriousness, as if gratitude should have posture. The whole dock applauds. I do too, because I have learned the rules here. By evening, the light goes gold and then goes thin. I find my family in the office, the whiteboard steady as a sternum behind us. The room smells like paper and dust and the last cup of coffee that should not have been brewed. I'm staying, I say, not to soothe or provoke. To record, not a trial. I'm here. No one breathes for a beat. Then Landon nods like a horse agreeing to a rider. Harper presses her lips together, then exhales a quiet good. Grayson's text arrives a minute later. Understood. Send policy manual too. Elias from the doorway taps his cane once as if calling a meeting to order. Evelyn's eyes shine, but she keeps her voice the same temperature as before. Then we keep going, she says. And we do. Part 10. Choose the next chapter. We sit at the long office table with actual calendars, not just intentions. Pens click. Doors stand open. The ranch hums like a machine whose parts enjoy one another. Landon's acceptance. 3 mornings a week at the ring, he says, checking boxes on a printed schedule. Tuesdays with Noah after flowers. Saturdays I shadow Dr. Ames. He writes down tack repair, farrier dates, feed deliveries, then adds, almost sheepish, and I'll set up a grooming clinic for the kids. If you can hold a brush, you can hold yourself. Serena writes it onto the whiteboard before the sentence finishes existing. Harper's sabbatical. She dials HR on speaker, states calmly that she'll be taking a 6-month leave to establish a rural legal clinic. Effective date Monday, she tells the air. Then adds, I'll send the memorandum of understanding. Elias hands her a folder with retainer templates, conflict checks, and a list of pro bono partners in Billings who have already agreed to secondment. She emails the first 3 intake appointments for next week and books a standing Wednesday slot with the Interpreter Network. No walk-ins after 5, she writes on a sticky note for the clinic door. We are humans. Grayson's, maybe. He returns from Denver with a binder and a headache. He does not announce decisions. He opens the workshop instead, clears a bench, and sketches a layout for a small modular furniture line that could be produced here using scrap hardwood. Pilot run, he says. 5 pieces. Online storefront, limited drop. If it sells, we scale. He sits with Elias to draft a revenue-sharing agreement that pays residents for labor and the trust for materials and overhead. He hates the font on the draft invoice template and fixes it without comment. Logistics, that E. Make it real. Evelyn fills out a W-4 for me and slides over a key on a blue fob. East room, she says. The sheets are clean because Marjorie won't allow otherwise. I complete an intake form like any resident because rules that don't apply to me shouldn't apply to anyone. Serena schedules my first oral history block and orders archival boxes that won't eat ink. Noah prints the new weekly roster and pins it up straight on the first try. By late afternoon, the day slides toward its weekly rhythm. The bell rings for the community dinner, not loud, just sure of its authority. We fold into the barn together. Twinkle lights, rosemary in jars. The long tables know our elbows now. Marjorie's gratitude is 2 lines as always. Grateful for apricots that didn't argue with the knife, she says, and for a dishwasher that believes in resurrection. Elias lifts his glass, eyes bright. Grateful for signatures that commit us to the right problems. Harper. Grateful for templates that save time and stories that refuse to be reduced to forms. Landon. Grateful for a horse who let a boy cry into his mane and then flicked him with a tail like, "There, there!" Grayson after a beat. Grateful for hinges that don't squeal and budgets that might balance. No promises. It's almost a joke. It lands like Hope learned to walk in work boots. After supper, we step out into the violet of evening. The path pulls us toward the founder's wall the way habit pulls a hand toward a beloved's shoulder. Names cut in stone, dates that will not bargain. Blue irises fading with dignity in a jar. We stand there without arranging ourselves, the way a family does when it stops auditioning and starts existing. I rest my palm on Asher's name. The stone holds the day's warmth like a kept secret. The lake breathes behind us, smaller than the nightmares and larger than the past. I hope you saw it, I tell my boy, my voice ordinary. The swimming, the letters, the way we're staying. I don't ask for signs. I don't negotiate with the dark. I just report. The wind lifts, and the twinkle lights in the barn catch and steady. Somewhere a horse stamps, a tack hook ticks against a post, a child laughs like he knows the punchline already. The ranch hums, alive, not mine alone, and finally mine as well. I take my hand from the stone, square the card in my pocket that says, "We can be your helpers now," and walk back toward the light with the people who proved it.